Good morning, everyone. Today, we will discuss another principles that is espoused by no other than the Gregory Mankiw. This is the application of the principle number 5, where people uh, are better off in trade. No? So we will discuss interdependence and the gains from trade. So this is Augusto B. Augusto, Faculty of USC School of Business and Economics. So let us review what did we learn so far from the previous presentation that we have, or previous discussion. We learned in the two previous chapters, we introduced some basic concepts of economics. What is economics? What are the different principles of economics? Then the 10 basic principles were organized in three groups. First, the decisions by individual. Second, the interaction of individuals among themselves. And the third, the economy as a whole. So these are the groupings of the basic principles of economics. Then we look into the methods used by economics as a science. The two models were developed as examples of macro and micro analysis. These are the circular flow of income and expenditure, or the circular flow of economy, and then the production possibilities frontier, where we assume that there are two goods in in a country, no, in a two country there are two goods. That is the assumption in our PPF. So now we look at the meaning of trade. Now, because this is principle number 5, we will go deep on trading. What are the details, no, in trading? And then looking back at principle number 5, trade can make everybody better off. That is the principle in number 5. So common sense tell us that specialization for individuals means more know-how and therefore more production. Now, when we upgrade our skills and specialization, then the production will follow, no, the output of individual who are specializing in some goods and services. Then the production will follow through with uh, the higher level of knowledge. However, specialist individuals must exchange their products. No matter how high the level of your knowledge and the level of your production, you have to exchange, no, the products and services to other people. Because trading is selling something to buy something else. So we try to establish how and why specialization and trade is beneficial to individuals and nations. There are two schools of thought, the self-sufficiency or interdependence. Let us look for the definition of each of these two. So economics studies how societies produce and distribute goods and services in an attempt to satisfy the wants and needs of its members or its citizenry. That is economics. No? Then one alternative would be for individuals or nations to produce everything they need themselves. No? Production and consumption among themselves, no? The need. This is called self-sufficiency. However, on the other side, the other alternative is for individuals and nations to specialize and trade with one another. So this leads to economic interdependence among nations. The question before us is simple. Which is better and why? To be self-sufficient or economic interdependence? These are the two choices, the trade-off that we are facing in this discussion. We will try to find answers in the preceding slides. So we start with a general observation about the society we live in. Individuals and nations rely on specialized production and exchange as a way to address problems caused by scarcity. So, as what we have said, scarcity is the problem that economists try to solve. This gives rise to two questions. Why is interdependence the norm? What determines production and trade when individuals and nations are economically interdependent? So interdependence occurs because people are better off when they specialize and trade with others. What determines the pattern of production and trade? These are based upon differences in opportunity cost. Patterns of production and trades are based upon differences in opportunity cost. This is true within an economy among different regions, also among different communities and individuals, and also true among nations and regions. Almost all the products we consume have been produced by the efforts of different individuals, usually in many different countries of the world. Because of globalization, one product cannot be recognized by a one nation only. It is a product of different countries. Example, the technology, even cars, even garments, it is scattered in the global area, the semi-processing, the processing, the fabrication of that in different countries. It is scattered. No? So products we consume have been produced by different nationalities. That is the reality. So most individuals do not consume at all what they themselves produce. No, they have to sell something in excess of what they need. No, that is uh, what the individuals do in the surplus, what we call the surplus, from their production and then consumption. So let's have an example. This is a parable for the modern economy. Let us imagine a world with only two goods, potatoes and meat. No? Then only two people, a potato farmer and a cattle rancher. This is the assumption as what we did before. No? Assumption. Then the next question, what should each produce? The potato farmer and the cattle rancher. Why should they trade? What is the importance of trading? So here is the possibilities, production possibilities frontier of the farmer and the ranchers, and also the PPF. No, the hours needed to make 1 pound of meat. It needs per farmer it's 20 hours per pound. No, for rancher it needs 1 hour per pound. On another side, potatoes, the farmer needs 10 hours per pound, and then ranchers 8 hours per pound. So when we talk about the amount produced in 40 hours, no? So for meat, 40 divided by 20 is 2 pounds. 40 divided by 10 is 4 pounds for potatoes. And then 40 divided by 1 is 40 pounds for meat for the rancher. And 40 divided by 8 is 5 for the ranchers. Okay. So let us look at the graph. No, you can see in the farmer's PPF there is in the y-axis and then the x-axis the meat pounds, and the y-axis the potatoes pound. You can see 4 pounds and 2 pounds, this one. Production of the farmer, 4 pounds and then 2 pounds of meat. No? However, point E, that is 2 pounds of potatoes and then 1 pound of meat. This is the chosen production of the farmer. No? The farmer. On the other side, if the rancher choose to produce only meat, no, he can produce 40 pounds of meat, no, and then 5 pounds of potatoes and zero per meat. However, if he chooses to produce 40 pounds of meat, then zero potatoes. However, at point B, you can see 2.5 pounds of potatoes and then 20 pounds of meat for the ranchers. No? So this is the PPF of the rancher. So you can see if they will choose both of the products they will produce. No? They can produce 2.5 potatoes and 20 pounds of meat, no? But they can have the potatoes of meat. However, if they choose the other side, 40 pounds of meat and zero potatoes. At they will just focus on one product. Now, self-sufficiency. What happens if the farmer and the rancher decide to ignore each other? No, walang pakialaman. What will happen? So there is no exchange or trade among them. Because they produce what they consume. So there is no trading or there is no exchange among each other. Therefore, each can only consume their own production. In other words, both each one, the production possibilities frontier, is also the consumption possibilities frontier. Without trade, there are no economic gains. Okay? Because there are no trading. They produce what they are consuming. So there is no economic gains. There is no economy to talk about. But each will be losing the prospect of using their respective full potential or potential fully. No? The full potential of each individual, the frontier and the farmer and the rancher, no? They loses the full potential, no, of their production. That's what uh, the lose, no, for the rancher and the farmer. So our claim is that each would be better off if they specialize in producing the product that they are more suited to produce and then trade with each other. Okay? In our example, the farmer should produce potatoes and the rancher should produce meat. The actual quantities will depend on factors that determine the relative price of meat and potatoes. So, but an arbitrary trade bundle that is beneficial to both, otherwise there is no trade, is sufficient to make our point. No? So the point E is point B is an example of this one. So how trade expand consumption opportunities? Let us look how trade increases the farmer's consumption. This is the y-axis and the x-axis, no? The farmers, no? The farmers. He has the maximum. He has 3 pounds of meat, and then 4 potatoes, 4 pounds of potatoes, the maximum, no? However, if for consumption without trade, it's point E, no? It's point E, where you can see he can just produce 2 pounds of potatoes and 1 pound of meat. No? However, if he will expand for the farmer consumption with trade, he can have as much as 3 pounds of potatoes and 3 pounds of wheat. Okay, it will increase, no? From 2, 4, then it will have 3 and 3. On the other side, the rancher, no? This is the consumption of the rancher. So as you look at the blue line, no, potatoes, he has 5 pounds of potatoes and 40 pounds of meat, no? However, the point where rancher consumption with trade, no, this is point B at the red line, and then rancher consumption without trade is B at the black, no. So it just consumption of 20 and 21, no, 21 pounds of meat, no. However, potatoes will have two and a half, no, two and a half, and then it will add to 3, not 3 pounds of potatoes. So it increases the rancher and also the farmer. Let us look at this table. No, this is without trade, production and consumption. For the farmer, 1 pound of meat. Then the production, 0 pounds of wheat. No, and then production 4 pounds potatoes, and production and consumption 2 pound potatoes. Then in trading, farmer gets 3 pounds met for 1 pound of potatoes, no? Because this one, then 3 pounds of met, no? And then 1 pound of potatoes. This is in case of trading. In consumption, they get 3 pounds met and 3 pounds potatoes. Okay? And then gains from trade 2 pounds met and 1 pound potatoes. So this is production and consumption. Then sa production, there is 0 pounds of met, and then if he will go to trading, he can get 3 pounds met and then 1 pound potatoes. So in consumption, he can get 3 pounds of met and then 3 pounds of potatoes in consumption. So here, you can see 3 minus 4 is 1, 3 minus mhm, sa consumptions, no? This is 3 minus 1 is 2, production and consumption side. And then 3 minus 2 is 1, no? The rancher, however, 20 pounds of met and then 24 pounds of met in the production. In the production consumption, 2.5 pounds of potatoes and then 2 pounds of potatoes in production. While in trading, it will give him 3 pounds of met and then 1 pound of potatoes. No? So, sa consumption, he can consume 21 pounds of met and then 3 pounds of tomatoes. No? So, 3 pounds of tomatoes minus 2.5 is 1 half. 21 minus 20 is 1 pound na met. So, these are the gains from trade. No? So, you can see both of them will gain from trading, no? Because they exchange among themselves, they gain higher from the previous, no? From the previous production and consumption. So measuring cost of production, so there is differences in the cost of production. Determine the following: who should produce what, how much should be traded for each product, and there are two ways to measure differences in cost of production. So the number of hours required to produce a unit of output, for example, 1 pound of potatoes. The opportunity cost of sacrificing one good for another. Is it the latter that is the basis of trade between the farmer and the rancher? Now, absolute advantage. Before we move on, let us look at a different set of production figures for the farmer and rancher. In the new example, the farmer produces more potatoes while the rancher produces more meat. The produces that requires a smaller quantity of inputs. No? So remember, this is inputs to produce a good is said to have an absolute advantage in producing that good. Okay, remember, quantity of inputs. Next, this is an easy but also an interesting situation. The farmer will specialize in potatoes and the rancher in meat. So our original example is interesting because the rancher is producing more of both potatoes and meat. Huh? So you can see the rancher is producing both potatoes and meat. Unlike in this previous presentation that the farmer will specialize in potatoes and the rancher will specialize in meat. So look at this production of farmer and rancher. So hours needed to make pound of meat and then an amount produced in 40 hours. So farmers 20 hours pound, potatoes 4 hours pound per pound, rancher 1 hour per pound, 8 hours per pound. So the same, not as what we have learned before. Now, in comparative advantage look at relative cost. In other words, to the opportunity cost. So unlike the absolute advantage, no, which rely on the quantity of inputs, here in comparative advantage, it rely on the opportunity cost. So the producer who has the smaller opportunity cost of producing a good is said to have a comparative advantage in producing that good. In our original example, the rancher is able to produce more of both goods. Still, the farmer has comparative advantage in potatoes while the rancher has comparative advantage in meat. No? So farmer gives up 0.5 pound of meat to produce 1 pound of potatoes. So the ratio is 8 is to 1 for the rancher. Huh? That's why he has the comparative advantage in the production of meat. So comparative advantage and differences in opportunity cost are the basis for specialized production and trade, not the absolute advantage. Whenever potential trading partners have differences in opportunity cost, they can each benefit from trade. Okay? So individuals, regions, and nations specialize because they have comparative advantage, not absolute advantage, where they rely on the quantity of inputs. Here, they rely on the opportunity cost of the product. So specialization in trade lead, lead to higher levels of consumptions for all the partners that participate in trade. So other benefits of exchange, specialization permits each producer to have a deeper knowledge and experience about the tasks involved during production. Better knowledge and experience means more can be produced by the same amount of effort. Now, when you become specialized to whatever you are doing, no, it makes uh, the production more and more output, no, because you are knowledgeable and experienced on that matter. Higher productivity benefits everyone in society. Precious talent is not wasted on doing things others can also do. So we don't want Hagi to sing or John Lennon to play football. So that's what in that three agents have said. No? What will happen if Michael Jordan will play golf? And then John Lennon will play football. So they are not in their place no, of specialization. What will happen is a great havoc. No, there is an chaos. There is no specialization. So our current welfare is fully the result of high productivity due to specialization. That is one of the benefits of trading or exchange. So trade among nations, what is true within a nation is also true among nations. Exports are what Philippines sells to other countries. Imports are what Philippines buys from other countries. So the principle of comparative advantage therefore applies in international trade. An absolute advantage in international trade works in limited areas of natural causes, oil, tourism, etc. And big differences in productivity among countries does not prevent international trade. Philippines benefits from trade with US and EU or even China, even if they both have higher productivity. Because, as I've said, no man is an island. So, in conclusion, self-sufficiency is not desirable. Specialization leads to higher productivity for the producers of goods and services. Interdependence and trade allow people to enjoy a greater quantity and variety of goods and services. The person who can produce a good with a smaller quantity of inputs has an absolute advantage. But we are looking here not on the quantity of inputs, but on the opportunity cost. That is, no, the person with a small opportunity cost has a comparative advantage over the other. The gains from trade are based on comparative advantage, not absolute advantage. So Philippines benefits from international trade. That is the end of this presentation. And thank you for listening and watching my presentation on interdependence and gains of trade. Thank you and good evening to each and every one of us.